video is about audiences hating bad writing and not strong women, and it refers to, well, probably what's been happening that I have no idea about because I lived under a rock in the past 10 years. So yeah, let's see what's been happening.
She-Hulk, Peter Pan and Wendy, The Rings of Power, Captain Marvel, The Last Jedi, Mulan. All products featuring a female lead.
Those are like really bad scores. Like really bad scores, man.
Lead of significant strength or power, all brutally panned by audiences. Why is that? Sexism, right? Or maybe it's just bad character writing. That's not to discount the awfulness of any actual hatred of female characters due to their gender, but it's quite apparent once you think about it that such hateful commentary only finds any significant audience if the wider, less spiteful viewing public dislikes the character for their own, more sensible reasons. The main reason, of course, is that so many lead women in film and TV in the past decade are just horribly written. There are plenty of exceptions, of course, and we'll talk about a few of those. This is a problem most notable in Disney projects, as you could tell from my list, but since Disney owns half the world at this point, it feels like a wider issue.
Oof, do they though? Am I that under the rock? I have not watched Disney stuff since, I don't know, since when I was a kid. I barely watched Disney stuff. It's like, I don't know. To me, the quality of Disney went down the drain, and I just don't bother, because it's the same slop. Oh, Disney owns everything. Interesting. You watch Disney stuff but didn't know it? No, because usually they have like the thing where they say it's from Disney, right? All Marvel belongs to Disney. Yeah, I don't watch Marvel. I'm like, guys, I literally spent 20,000 hours playing Path of Exile. Do you think I had time to watch stuff?
So what exactly makes these characters such bad examples of what a protagonist should be? Well, it's hard to point to any one thing in particular. Not all the characters discussed here will share the same writing flaws. They all fail in varying ways, but they do have some similarities. A common one is being overpowered and not really earning that power. The original animated film shows Mulan's struggle due to her inexperience and lack of physical prowess, but she makes up for those disadvantages by using her wits, thinking creatively, and refusing to quit even when things seem hopeless. The new Mulan is basically a superhero already due to her midichlorians, and thus is automatically more skilled than everyone else. There's no need for her to use her brain or develop new ways to...
No need for her to use her brain. Hey, yo, if that doesn't scream sexism, I don't know what. Good writing right there. Good job.
Approach problems, leaving the character flat and uninteresting. It's worth noting that when I say earning power, that doesn't necessarily mean doing something noble or virtuous that results in the character being given great power.
That kind of like sucks because like I watched the initial Mulan, right? Like I didn't even know there's a new Mulan. But like that sounds incredibly boring and dull, man. It's just like, who just likes someone that's strong for the sake of being strong, and the entire plot is that they're strong and virtuous, and that's it.
As is the case with someone like Captain America. Most superheroes do not earn their abilities in such a way. Their powers are forced upon them through chance or freak accident, and that's fine. However, to then earn the power given them, the hero should have to struggle in some way, to grow into his or her abilities. The Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie is a classic example of this.
Yeah, I mean, who the heck just has a new power and suddenly is able to freaking control it without struggles, without thinking about things, without even having like moments when they even wonder what they can do with it, and then have the moral dilemma whether they should do good or bad, or what they're doing is corrupting them. Like, there's so much you can do with like getting a power.
Peter Parker is given superpowers through a random spider bite, but he doesn't instantly know what to do with his newfound abilities, nor even how to put them to proper use. There are significant growing pains as he learns to be the hero he now must become. A more recent example of this trope that was done fairly well is Kate Bishop from The Hawkeye Show that at least 20 people watched. Despite being an incredibly talented archer and martial artist...
20 people watched. Oh man. There's no attempt for character development. It does feel like that, honestly.
From the get-go, Kate is woefully inexperienced in the world of crime fighting, and has to learn how to apply her skills in each new situation, relying on the mentorship of Hawkeye himself. On the flip side, we have characters like She-Hulk and Rey Skypatine. Rey's progression through her Jedi training was basically just whatever the plot required at any given moment. Jen Walters woke up as She-Hulk and immediately was in full control of her alter ego. The central struggles that defined the characters from whom these heroines were
Damn.
derived are just stripped away and not replaced by anything meaningful.
That's really sad, man. I remember watching Hulk and like his inability to like control himself, having problems, being branded bad because of that. Like, how do you just wake up with power and you're like, I'm perfect already, and think that's good plot? That's like, I honestly, like, what do they teach people in school nowadays? How the heck do you get to this level of bad writing? The heck?
Jen's defining character.
Like, not even as a child did we have fantasies of where we were just super powerful. Maybe when we were like, I don't know, 5. The writers went on a strike. This is what was love. This is sad.
Moment takes place during a group therapy session when she comes to the realization that she needs to accept that she doesn't need to be She-Hulk to find acceptance. That's right, the apex of Jen's character arc is her deciding that she can be herself. This wasn't an issue, by the way, until after the She-Hulk persona was present. Prior to her accident, Jen appeared to be quite satisfied with her life. For some unknown reason, she only decided to get into the dating scene after spending some time as a giant green monster, and then found out apparently there's no market for a reasonably attractive 30-something-year-old lawyer in Los Angeles.
What is this plot? Oh, man.
I don't know about you, but to me that feels a bit contrived. Look, I'm not in the online dating scene, but I have it on good authority that women tend to get significantly more attention than men do on those apps, especially if they happen to be successful and not ugly. Does this show seriously expect me to believe that the only guys willing to even talk to Jen Walters are total creeps and losers, or, alternatively, men who are only charming and friendly because they have an agenda?
Lovely.
Speaking of which, let's talk about Disney's obsession with promoting and elevating women.
I mean, everyone has an agenda nowadays, am I right? You cannot be safe. Everyone just wants something, totally. Including a movie that you are watching for no reason, apparently. Oh, man. This is sad. Like, oh, what is this level of writing?
It's one thing to have female characters who are smart, strong, persistent, and courageous. It's quite another to simply promote the power of women by setting them up on a pedestal. That kind of treatment is nothing more than pandering, and stories that contain it suffer greatly. Take, for example, the recent Peter Pan and Wendy, which decided that the all-male cast of Lost Boys wasn't inclusive enough, and so tossed some girls into the mix. Girls can be rough and tumble.
Oh, can I just say... Can people just fucking make their own new shit? Can you stop taking old stuff that people made and just twist it? Can you stop reinventing? Like, just stop. Just no. Can we not? Just make your own shit. God damn it. Leave my Peter Pan alone. What the fuck? People always reinvent the wheel. They can reinvent the wheel if they want to. But like, they're just taking the wheel and putting paint on it. And not even doing a good job at paint. They're slapping some paint on and it's cracked and chipped and you can see the fact that there was no effort put in. And I'm like... Why? Why would you do that? You took Mulan and ruined it. Now I hear you took Peter Pan. Like, why? Like, I grew up with those things. Like, I've seen them, and like, I never went and thought, man, the world favors men so much. I need to change that. There's not enough representation for me as a woman there. That's not the point of fucking shows. The point is to have a story. The point is to learn a lesson, to have moral, like, to have an underlying message that everyone can fucking learn from. That's the point of a bloody book, a movie, a TV show. It's to teach you things. What am I supposed to learn? That women are just strong innately and I should inherit and, like, be proud? Yes. Totally. I will love to see how my superhero ladies over there deal with their period. I feel like we didn't go deep enough down the women are strong until we reached the moment when you guys dedicate 5 minutes on your movie for our periods. To see that superhero lady while on her period going out and being like, I am strong! Oh wait, we're not supposed to talk about that because that would be the opposite of like vulnerability. And yes, I am sarcastic. Please don't do that. Oh god, man. The point of live action remakes is to renew Disney's copyright. Feels bad. Feels bad. Like, actually feels bad. Character development is optional. Why?
Two, you hear? Do you know why the Lost Boys were originally all boys? It's because they fell out of their prams, or strollers for you Americans, and were carted off to Neverland. And girls are far too clever to do such a stupid thing. But apparently no one involved in the casting decision had ever read the original novel, so here we are.
One read the original. Well, why would they need to read the original? We could just change it however we want, just like history. Oh, wait, that's exactly what they're doing right now. Yeah.
Or we could talk about Captain Marvel and the thinly
My
veiled metaphor for
God.
the patriarchy embodied in the one dude who keeps telling her to not use her true power because that's cheating or whatever. And of course, She-Hulk seems to be mostly made just to complain about the pig-headedness of men.
There's a hot chick over there. I'm gonna go talk to it.
Yeah, nobody talks like that. It should come as no surprise that these shows and movies don't just fail at writing good female characters. They're terribly written across the board.
I'm the spy. What?
It's not just Rey that the audience dislikes. No characters from the Disney trilogy
That
won the
is
hearts
sad.
of the audience. Remember how great of a character Nick Fury was in Captain Marvel? Yeah, neither does anyone else. Elrond really stood out in the Rings of Power, right?
Ooh.
Okay, he actually wasn't terrible. He wasn't good, but he could have been worse. Honestly, Galadriel could have been worse too. Not that I think she was well written, she wasn't, and her introduction in the first episode is basically a how-to course on annoying audiences. We first meet her as she's being tormented by other elf children for having the audacity to think that her origami swan will float. Not only does this display a severe lack of understanding of what elves are in Tolkien's Legendarium on the writer's part, it demonstrates a cheap trick that modern media likes to use in order to attempt to make the audience like a character. Forced sympathy. The mantra goes something like this. Look, this character is being mistreated. You must then feel bad for her and like her.
Wow, nice. I love the fact that it was condensed down to being bullied for origami.
The correct response to that is, of course, why is this character being mistreated? For all we know, Galadriel was being a complete twerp just moments before this scene, and is totally deserving of having her boat sunk. There's no narrative reason that the show gives for Galadriel to be tormented here. It's just an attempt at manipulating the audience into feeling bad for the poor, helpless victim, and thus hopefully liking her. Contrast that with Arcane and the plight of Vin and Powder. The show opens with an actually tragic scene, and it doesn't stoop to the pointed, petty tactics of Rings of Power.
Jesus
Galadriel lives
Christ,
in
man.
Valinor, a place of transcendent peace and harmony, so the writers contrived
Peace and harmony.
an inane attempt at sympathy. Arcane is set largely in a brutal slum of a city, but it
Dude, like, I don't know, maybe it's my bias, but like someone sinking my swan on the river, I don't consider that bullying. At most I'll consider that kids being kids and I move on with my life, man.
it gives its main character a plucky, relentless attitude that rejects the victimhood status which so many other modern properties confer upon their heroines. Because if you're a victim, how can anyone hate you? Well, it's pretty easy when you're incredibly smug and don't give a rat's ass about the safety of your troops. The me against the world vibes from Galadriel in the first episode are just so tired and overdone. We know she's going to be right about Sauron still being around because of course she is. She can take down the Ice Troll single-handedly because of course she can. However, that on its own would not necessarily be bad writing. Galadriel, because that is what the show calls her, is quite old and thus an experienced warrior. I'm willing to accept that this character has spent centuries in combat and thus is highly skilled and capable of such feats. What makes this scene so absurd is that all the other elves around her, these warriors hand-picked to exterminate Sauron and the remnants of his armies, are completely and totally hapless and helpless to the point that they might as well be a different species than their leader. It's totally
I hate that so much in movies and stuff where everyone's just a prop to make the main character be a lot better.
fine to have protagonists who are supremely skilled, but it's a really poor choice to have the supporting characters be complete buffoons in order to showcase that skill. Galadriel might as well just be out there on her own. Really, most of the examples I've listed tend to just do things solo. It is up to them and them alone to win the day. As in Captain Marvel and Mulan, all they really need to do is seize the power that is already within them, to throw off the shackles others would impose upon them, and victory is theirs. The dramatic shift between victimhood and total power is what these movies believe to be meaningful character work, but it's really just a violent swing from one extreme to the other, and neither end of the spectrum is healthy.
I wonder if this is the view of the writers of how they saw the characters that were powerful in the series when they grew up. Because like I'm like trying to understand the perspective of like how you end up writing this. Do you just like grow up thinking, I don't know, that the main character of the show you saw was just like victimized, going through hardship, and then became powerful, but like you completely missed the entire everything in between? And of course, because you know they're girls, you can't make them victims the same way as guys, because who would punch a girl, am I right? So the best thing you can do is say that they sunk her paper swan and they bullied her plant or garden. Like what is hardship, man? This isn't like hardship. This isn't even bullying in my opinion. It's just like and then like the entire I'm just powerful. Most people tend to at least show you a few clips of you growing stronger and training, right? You don't just go to 50 years later. I have spent my time honing my skills and I'm ready. I don't have any actual combat experience. Just training. It doesn't work that way.
There's a huge difference between having agency and being world-conquering forces of nature that only needed to shrug off the hands holding them down. If you're going to write the hero of a story, a central character who ultimately is able to conquer the evil he or she faces, you need to make them earn it. That protagonist needs to struggle or even suffer as they obtain the strength necessary to win the day. Ideally, they would find such strength through meaningful relationships, or by learning from those wiser or more experienced than them. Recent examples of this done at least fairly well: Rita Vertasky, a supremely skilled soldier having to work together with Tom Cruise's character, whose name I forget, to gradually establish a plan to
I like the fact that it's like Tom Cruise's character.
win the war. Vi being motivated by love for her sister, relying on others in her fight, badly missing the guidance of her father figure. Kate Bishop being mentored by Hawkeye as she realizes how ill-prepared she is for the world she has stumbled into. There are plenty of other examples of female protagonists who match that description, but I wanted to point out some from within the last decade to emphasize the point that audiences do not, by and large, just hate any strong woman on screen right now.
No, that's like, I feel like that's such a dumb premise. Most people, like, I like to believe it, maybe it's not true, but I like to believe most people don't look at a freaking gender when they look at a story or a movie. Like, I couldn't care less what what the character looks like if you make a good story. Like, that's why I said, like, growing up, I never went like, no, my gender is not represented enough in media. Like, it was never the point. It was never the point to make it about sex. It was never the point to go like, no, this gender needs more representation and that one too. If the writing is good, people are not gonna care. If you'd force it down their throat, then they're gonna care. Because you're putting your agenda and your like plans way above anything else. People just care about good story. People are willing to accept, a lot of people, not everyone, right? Like when I say people, I mean me and at least those around me. People are willing to accept the law because no one cares. Not to mention, it's like most of the time the beauty of like a lot of things was the fact that it was ambiguous. You could think whatever you wanted of that character. You just learned a lesson. You didn't have their sex life on display. You didn't care what they were. You just cared that they were cool, and then you made your own fanfic. And that was that. It's like, I don't know. I hate this, man. I hate this so much. It's just like, can't we just have regular good story and stop putting so much focus on whether it's a female lead or not? I hate it in marketing too. I hate games. Like, I see so many games where it's like, oh, it's a female lead. It's a strong female lead. I'm like, I couldn't care less. What's the gameplay about? What's the story about? Is it remotely interesting? Like, not even marketing works. It doesn't work on me as a woman going like, this has a strong woman in it. Like, I don't care. Like, none of, like, do you see any of the old marketing for like the movies and games going like, this has a strong man in it? No, because it's ridiculous. Why do you need to differentiate yourself like that? Ugh.
Character arcs are flatter than the state of Kansas. Characters who need only achieve self-actualization are not only boring and lack meaningful character work, they teach us awful lessons. The idea that all that is needed for success is to seize the strength and power already within you is a harmful notion that discredits the value of relationships, personal growth, and humility.
I agree.
You are sufficient, these stories tell their audiences. You don't need to change. Our heroes are supposed to inspire us, either by their ability to grow beyond their own flaws and failures, or, despite being paragons of virtue and goodness, still having to struggle against overwhelming odds and having to use their wits to be creative, to trust their team to win the day.
I mean, at least I'm starting to understand why that woman had trouble being being in her 30s and a lawyer and trying to date. If you're unwilling to change at all, if you just want someone to see you for the strong, independent person that doesn't need anyone, why would they be in a relationship with you? You're supposed to like learn about the world, learn about others, have empathy, have like everyone struggles in life with things. Nothing is just like a fucking cakewalk and a rainbow or anything. It's like, oh, it's sad. It's sad that this is what media is. I'm kind of like happy that I don't actually bother watching a lot of these because like, yeah, this looks like a major waste of time. It's like, why would I even want to watch anything from Disney in the last decade? Does not seem worth it.
Indeed, some of the most admirable characters
Give me
in
back
fiction,
Dr.
ones
House.
who do not suffer all that much personal growth due to having already attained great virtue, find themselves insufficient. This is most clear in Tolkien's work, where characters such as Faramir, Theoden, and Aragorn, great men who suffer little if any inner turmoil, at least in the books, are not able to win the day, but rather can only play their part in the war that will define the future of Middle-earth. They teach us the message we need to hear, the message that Disney and Hollywood want to keep from our ears, and that is, you are not enough, but you still can do great things. They may not bring you glory, they may even bring you pain and suffering, but if you put the good of others before your own needs and wants, you will find true and lasting happiness. So many modern heroines fail to win the love of the audience because they take shortcuts to power. They are elevated by the story rather than having to climb up their own character arc. They are shallow character molds created largely to prove a point or push an agenda, and perhaps most importantly, they tend to care for themselves, their own success, their own ideas of what it means to be fulfilled. Hollywood and Disney in particular seem to want so badly to provide us with examples of powerful women, but they fail to understand what makes for a good example or role model. The heroines they prop up are too often shallow, unlikable, and exhibit many of the traits, such as arrogance and abrasiveness, that their creators find abhorrent in male protagonists.
It's funny to become the thing that you despise in a way, I guess. Oh, man. But yeah, it's like, I don't understand it. Like, who thinks that you need to send a message to someone by having, like, that gender representation like that? It's like, I don't know. It's just wrong to me. It's just, like, futile to do that. It sends the wrong message.
How is this fixed? Simple. Create characters to tell a story, not to prove a point. Either show
Pretty
flawed
much.
characters who have to grow and change to heal their inner wounds and overcome their shortcomings, or give us paragons of virtue who have to struggle, sacrifice, and suffer due to the evil they face. But most importantly, write characters whose defining moments do not come as they realize their own worth and value, that they themselves are sufficient, but rather as they decide to take selfless action for the good of others.
I can't carry it for you,
I mean,
but I can carry you!
Well, those are...
I mean, I don't particularly agree with his conclusion here in the sense that, like, you can have a character not necessarily suffer. You can have the moral of the story be that you are enough, right? But it's really depending on the context, I would say. It's like, it's nuance. It's a good moral to tell someone that they themselves are enough and that they should love themselves, right? That people should not feel like they're not enough in the world because they get that plenty from fucking looking at their bills and the housing market. Like, We get that plenty. Oh, it has dimensions, exactly. Like it is extremely nuanced, but it definitely shouldn't be the only takeaway that you have. You can make something, like you can make a good story about you being enough by like forcing all the struggles that you've had and concluding that in a way. But like the point that I feel even the video is trying to make, right, is just people want a good moral story. Like they want to be able to form a conclusion and come out with something like a lesson learned, a value learned, being able to either relate to a character or just absolutely detesting the character, feeling emotion, right, towards something, but not because of their gender. I don't know. Some of these, like the plot itself just seems so shallow.
They're all my rambling thoughts on the matter. I hope we see lots more characters like Vi, Kim Wexler, Rita Vertasky, and Evelyn from the Quiet Place movies. I just realized 2 of those characters are played by Emily Blunt. No surprise there, considering her publicly stated thoughts on the strong female lead trope. Anyhow, let me know your thoughts and opinions, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.
Yeah, like please give me good shows and good movies that just focus on human struggles regardless of who the heck you are. Like it's not that hard. It's not even that deep. I don't know. Very sad.